You remember this day like it was tomorrow. Your ex decides to speak with you and explains that he wants to or she wants to end the relationship. You didn't see it coming. You were having a laugh or having sex just a few days before. You were happy together. Perhaps they even told you, I love you very recently. And this breakup came out of nowhere. And therefore the pain that you're suffering right now is immense. You're having a hard time to rationalize this decision. They perhaps don't want to speak with you at this moment. They don't want to explain. You don't have anything for you to make sense of this decision. I'm making this video to explain a little bit more about the psychology of those events. Why someone that we know really well, that we think we know well, can decide to end what we have so quickly, without any signs before that they would end this relationship. I will explain this and also how you can deal with this situation, obviously. Because as a therapist, I make those videos to explain how your brain, how psychology works, but also how you can use those information, those insights to feel better, to heal, to move on, to move forward. And let me know at the end of this video if that helped you. Share it with someone who needs to hear this today. And I will see you after the jingle.
IGetMyExBack.com. Everyone deserves a second chance.
We're not going to talk about Freud for the entirety of the presentation, but it's very important for you to understand, because I'm using this image because it's very famous. It's also something that we are familiar with, this idea of iceberg, where we have different level of consciousness. The conscious level, the thing that we see, that people can understand, the pre-conscious level and the unconscious level. The purpose of this video is not to describe in detail this concept of iceberg, but it's just for you to understand that we all have some part hidden within ourselves, within our own consciousness. So yes, you didn't see it coming, but perhaps your ex didn't see it coming either. And it came also as a surprise to them. So it's very important that those blind spots can also be something that your ex didn't know. If you're interested in psychology, Jung refers this as the shadow, the part of unknown. Neuroscientists will refer it as system 1 versus system 2. It's the same. It's a part of our brain that is not known to ourselves and therefore not known to others. And we'll explore a little bit in detail and try to make sense of this. First of all, suppressed feelings. In other words, the psychological term is catharsis. Catharsis is the idea that you suppress feelings or opinion about the relationship. You keep everything to yourself for years. It could be happening for years. They don't want you to suffer because maybe they disagree with something. They feel they are not happy with their life at the moment, but they don't. They feel that you depend on them, you have feelings for them, and in a way, they respect you, they care for you, so they keep things to themselves. And so, as they bottle up those emotions, months after months, years after years, at some stage that could explode. And they would say things, some of the signs, but again, it's very hard retrospectively to analyze. You would say, I love you, and they say, me too. They will always have this reciprocity, but never be very proactive. You'll be always the one pulling them towards you. That's a sign, for example, that they are not necessarily in line with where you are in terms of the relationship, in terms of feelings, in terms of emotional intimacy. And so they bottle up things, and at some stage that explodes. Maybe it's a life event, maybe it's something at work, maybe it's a word, maybe it's a situation. And they were just waiting for an excuse to end this relationship. Relationship investment is the idea that perhaps they were more invested emotionally, or you were more invested emotionally. The idea that there is an imbalance One is in depth emotionally to the other, creating a form of pressure. And so again, this idea of imbalance would push someone to feel like that's enough, it's too much. Because as months and years sort of go by, we want to find a new balance. We feel like, oh, that's too much, it's too far away, right? We sort of drifted apart, slowly but surely, and now we've reached a threshold and I can't bear it anymore. Because I invested too much, or you invested too much, but I don't feel like we're not on the same page. I feel you are more in love than I'm in love with, for example. And I was okay, but now I feel it's unfair to you. Or I invested so much in this relationship. I'm the only one investing and you're doing nothing. And therefore, I need to leave. I need to reclaim my independence, my freedom, because it's not working for me anymore. So this idea of imbalance, which could work in both directions. And very often, this is very much things that could be unsaid, unexpressed throughout the relationship, even years of relationship. Past trauma is also another one, a classic one, because past trauma is something that could be triggered. Traumas are obviously things that affect our unconscious or amygdala in our brain. And so that could also, when they are triggered, they can sort of affect the self-esteem, the problem of identity. Again, trying to escape from this situation. And so this is when sometimes we feel our partner is self-sabotaging the relationship. And sometimes being triggered can lead to emotional reaction that could be disproportionate, where they finally end a relationship out of nowhere because it's too painful, because it reminds them of something that is hurting them deeply. And so you need a bit of time for them to feel better, to assess, reflect, and also understand that you're not the enemy here. Another one could be attachment related. People who are, for example, clingy, overly clingy, so anxious, and they're afraid to be abandoned. They will sort of proactively end the relationship because they will control the narrative rather than waiting for the other to break up with them. Some people who are avoidant, they will distance themselves as soon as it's getting serious and they will pull the plug altogether. These are people who are avoidant. Both are a way to prevent a perceived risk. The risk for the fear for someone who's anxious is to be abandoned. And so therefore, by breaking up with you proactively, they are in control of the situation. For avoidant, they break up with you because the idea of closeness, of intimacy, of dependence is overwhelming, and therefore they want to reclaim their independence quickly. And on those cases, very often it comes as a surprise because you are happy, you were developing the relationship, and out of nowhere they decide to end the relationship because of those elements. Does it matter for you to know how it works? I spent 10 minutes describing how it works, but does it really matter? What's your part of responsibility in that decision? If you look at your relationship, are there anything that you could have done differently? If you're asking yourself this question and struggling to answer this question, it's probably because you haven't done anything wrong. And the next part of this video is to explain that, and I share with you 3 facts, 3 things you need to know to feel better. Because right now, yes, it's normal to have a sense of responsibility, a guilt. I must have done something wrong. It doesn't make sense for this person to end this relationship after what we had. Therefore, there's something I've done. Let me tell you those 3 facts, and I'll start with number 1. It has nothing to do with you. What happened had to happen, in the sense of unconsciously, in their mind, there was a psychological mechanism in play that was hidden from you, perhaps hidden from them. But when you look at the patterns of their relationship or childhood, you see this thing in play. In a way, they're already on the path already, had a deadline to the relationship in a way. The problem is that you were on the path. The problem is that could have been you, could have been someone else. You were on the path. For them, a relationship has a deadline. A relationship has an end. A relationship creates tons of problems, of fears. And it's not about you, it's about the relationship itself. So it's very important for you to understand it has nothing to do with you. Because perhaps they did the same with their ex. Was it the problem of their ex? No. Second fact, you don't want this kind of relationship. Perhaps it's something hard to hear right now because you have feelings for them. But being with someone who has this kind of double language, who would say, I love you on a Monday and break up with you on a Friday. That's not a way to be in a relationship. That's not how you can build trust. That's not how you can build a secure relationship. You don't want to be in a relationship where breakup is a form of communication. Because very often people, as I said, they bottle up and then when it's too much, they break up. That's not healthy, obviously. You cannot be in a relationship where you have to pay the price for your partner's trauma. Of course you care about them. Of course you want them to be happy to heal their trauma, but that's not your role to do it. Very often, and it happens, this breakup, if they had feelings for you, if they are in love with you, will force them to address their insecurities, to heal their trauma. And perhaps down the line, they'll figure out, okay, I messed up. I want to break this pattern of me self-sabotaging the relationships, of me leaving relationships every time I feel that the person is in love with me. I want this to change. But that's not your responsibility, right? It's their responsibility. And you have to be really strict about that. You can't get back with them if they don't acknowledge that they have to do something. And it's fine to see a therapist. Everybody sees a therapist right now. There's nothing wrong with that. If they decide, however, that there's no problem with them, that they're going to continue doing the same things, that they're going to continue those same patterns, you're simply wasting your time. Third one, you would never do this. And this is probably the most important one. You have a set of values and principles, and that's why it's so hard for you to accept this decision. You're always like, I would never do this to someone. I would never say, I love you and break up with them a couple of days after that. You can't be with someone who's so different with you in terms of values. That's not going to work. Values is something, it's like the non-negotiable of relationships. You can disagree on what you're going to watch on Netflix, you can disagree on where you live, for example, and you can come up to sort of an agreement. But in terms of values, in terms of things that matters to you, in terms of how you deal with people, your sort of definition of respect, your definition of communication. The reason it hurts is because it feels like a betrayal. The reason it hurts is because it's so far from your own value. That's a sign. This pain, the way they hurt you, is simply a sign that you felt disrespected in your own values, in things that matters to you. You would never treat someone like that. Don't be with someone who treats you this way then. Right? And you have every right to expect to be treated with respect, with integrity. So what about now? You have to accept that right now, if your ex blocked you or doesn't want to speak with you, you might never, ever get an answer from them. Right now, when you end this video, when you pause the video, you have to accept and have this mindset, I will never hear from them. It's painful, it's hard, it sucks. But it's easier if you accept it right now. If they reappear in your life, again, I don't know, they might not. Your job is not to heal them. Your job is not to help them address their insecurities, heal their trauma. You can listen, you can try to be understanding, but in a way it's very important for you to be strict about what you don't accept. They need to change. This is not about you. Very often people come to see me and we work at being or developing the better version of themselves, being more secure. And of course, I strongly believe that breakups are, even if it's like the wrong way to do it, could be a way for people to realize their blind spot and things they need to work on and how they can change and transform. But in this situation, they have to do most of the work. You don't. Look at the patterns. Look at your previous relationships. Look at their previous relationships. And you'll find some answers. If you have any questions about this, let me know. You can comment and ask me any question. You can also get in touch with me. There's a link to book a consultation with me. You have like about a handful of consultations available per week in the comment section, in the description. Take care of yourself. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.